Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show, Red Pill Edition. My name is Leon Jones, and in this segment, I'm going to ask this question. And the question is going to be the title of this afternoon's video. What have the Democrats done for you? What have the Democrats done for you? Or we could say, what has the Democratic Party done for you? Now, this question particularly goes out to a lot of African American folks and you white liberals out there. Now, I know you white liberals, you're definitely binded to the Democratic Party because that's who you are. Even though a number of you don't know anything, particularly you young millennials, you go to school, you're indoctrinated by the left-wing propaganda. You look at people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Kamala Harris. These individuals who are in Congress talk a good game, but what have they actually produced? And when it comes to the Democratic Party, I would ask African Americans, what have they really done for you? I mean, you complain that you don't have anything, but yet you still vote for these people. And a number of you African Americans have been indoctrinated into saying the Republicans are racist. But yet, history states that the Democratic Party founded the Ku Klux Klan to alleviate Republicans who were founded by African Americans. And the Ku Klux Klan wasn't there to just hang African Americans. That's what we all have been told. It was actually there to alleviate anyone who was Republican because some whites were hanged by the Ku Klux Klan. In fact, the Ku Klux Klan was to keep the Democrats in power. And where did the Ku Klux Klan start? In the South. But that still doesn't answer the question. What have the Democrats done for you? Now, a number of you don't like the policies that President Trump has produced. I mean, he's done pretty great with the COVID. The economy is coming back. In fact, the economy, the numbers I saw were pretty astounding from rebounding from the COVID at 8.4% unemployment. Trump has given money to HBCUs, which are historically black colleges and universities. Trump has offered help to these cities that have been destroyed by these Marxists known as BLM, BAM, and Antifa. And a number of these cities are Democratic cities. The Democratic politicians don't care about their cities. They're blaming Trump for everything. In fact, Joe Biden came out and said that Trump is to blame for what's going on. And after he did that, he put out a political ad with white supremacists marching in these cities with torches and Confederate flags. Now, we all know that all this mayhem has taken place in Democratic cities, and it continues to take place. But again, what has the Democratic Party done for you? Now, like it or not, a number of you out there, when it came to taking that stimulus package, the first one, you all did take that stimulus money, whether you voted for Trump or not. And right now, Nancy Pelosi is holding up the second stimulus package. because she wants to put in that bill monies to fund her Democratic cities that were destroyed by whom? The people that are voting for people like Nancy Pelosi. I'm talking about BLM, BAM, and Antifa. You know, the funny thing about Joe Biden, going back to him, he has not condemned BLM, Antifa, and BAM. But yet he still says Trump is the problem? No, the problem, Mr. Biden, is you. You're flip-flopping. You see that the polls aren't going in your direction. So what you're really doing is repeating everything that President Trump has talked about. Okay, he says make America better. You say build back better. He talks about law enforcement. Now you're talking about law enforcement, but it's too little, too late. Now, it might not be all your fault, Mr. Biden. It's your handlers. Your handlers are giving you bad information. But again, you've been in politics for about 50 years. You were a senator from Delaware. You were Obama's vice president. You were the one who signed the 1994 crime bill that puts people like me in jail. Kamala Harris. She put a number of African Americans in jail for what? Pot? Number of people smoke pot. But pot is not murder. But yet, African Americans, a number of women, a number of Latinos, you're going to vote for this guy. But you don't ever ask yourself this question. What has the Democratic Party done for you? Because a number of you who are voting for Biden are voting because you dislike Trump. Now, let me ask you this question. If you were going to work and you disliked your boss, what would you do? Would you continue to work there? Or would you go somewhere else? Now, some of you would continue to work there. Why? Because although you dislike that boss, that person who is your boss is getting things done to benefit you. And a number of individuals on the left secretly know that they are living pretty good under Trump's America. I don't care who you are. But the bottom line is, if we put the Democrats in power, because many of them come from an academia background, and academia is very, very poor when it comes to education. What they do, they teach Marxist education, and we all know it. But many of us sit here in denial, particularly African American individuals. You know, I was talking with my mom the other day, and my mom was talking about voting. And she asked me, are you going to vote? I said, yeah, I'm going to vote. I said, I vote all the time. Said, you going to vote for Biden? I said, I'm going to take a look at the candidates. And see, I had to basically beat around the bush, because when it comes to African Americans, you can't tell them that you're voting for the other party, because many of them are too ignorant, because they're on the Democratic plantation. And if you have a clear thinking mind, they're going to ridicule you. And then you have white liberals who do the same thing. White liberal come up to an African American, if he's talking to a police or she's talking to a police officer, she'll say, you don't need to be talking to that police officer, like they know what's best for me. And African Americans, Black Lives Matter doesn't give a darn about black people. All they are is a Marxist organization. They're for LGBTQ. They hate families. In fact, they want to get rid of the man, period, because they hate men. They're about feminism. But again, they're an arm of the Democratic Party. And black people, white liberals, number of women are going to vote for them. And what's going to happen? They're going to continue to complain about the same old issues that haven't been solved. And what you get with the Democratic Party is nothing but smoke. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the Republicans are great. But when you look at the lesser of two evils, my opinion right now, when it comes to this election, is you're going to have to go the other way, particularly on your local government. And the other way is the Republican way or the independent way. Because all you're going to get from the Democrats, you're going to get nothing but racism, sexism, you're homophobe, you don't like Social Security. You see, the Democrats are where your powerful elitists are. Most of your corporations like Facebook, your CNN News, and I think Fox News is going in that direction as well, because when I look at Fox News, for the most part, I only look at Tucker, I look at Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity, and during the weekends, I look at Mark Levin, Greg Gutfeld, Jesse Waters, Janine Pirro, but the rest of them, oh, Fox and Friends is okay, but your afternoon to coming up to the 5 in the evening, no. In my humble opinion, when you put Donna Brazile on your channel, the one who gave Hillary the questions, that just put a bitter taste in my mouth about that news organization. Then you got Joy Reid, who's on MSNBC, Don Lemon, who's on CNN. Then you got the Alphabet channels. All these individuals are in with the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party doesn't have anything to offer but emotion and hope. We had 8 years of hope and change with President Obama. Now, I do not dislike President Obama. If he stood right in front of me today, I'd still shake his hand, because let me tell you something. I could sit here and do a YouTube video, but I'm not out there running for president. I wouldn't even want that job. I wouldn't even want that job as a police officer. See, it's easy to stand in the background and criticize, but when you got to get in the game, that's when you got to let it all show. But my question is, to many of you who are voting Democrat, what do you think they're going to do for you? I mean, I hear a number of these millennials out here, and I'm not saying the whole millennial generation is a dumb generation, because I'm a Gen Xer, and there are a heck of a lot of dumb Gen Xers and even some baby boomers as well. But when it comes to today's Democratic Party, and they're not the party of Kennedy. They're not the party of Harold Ford. They're not the party of Zell Miller, Evan Bayh. Those were Blue Dog Democrats, and they don't get represented anymore. Now, Joe Biden was a moderate. Again, I don't dislike Joe Biden, but I think his wife is wrong for putting him out there. He looks like he's in a state of dementia. He's reading from a teleprompter. He's getting softball questions. And all he's doing is basically plagiarizing what Trump has already done. He's saying Trump's economy is bad. If Trump's economy is that bad, then everybody who's made a lot of money in Trump's economy, just give it back. Just go back to the Obama years. But see, what the Democrats really want to do is eliminate choice. And they're not going to eliminate choice just on their policies alone. They're going to fund it through groups like Black Lives Matter, BAM, Antifa. Those groups, they're paying those groups to utilize fear, put fear and intimidation in people who are against them, Then you got the big tech companies like Google, who own YouTube. You also have Facebook out here. You have Twitter, Instagram, which is owned by Facebook. You have Apple. You have Walmart. You have Amazon. Amazon is run by Jeff Bezos, who incidentally owns the Washington Post. Go figure. Washington Post is a very liberal paper. Well, these companies also put money into Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and BAM. These companies also want redistribution of wealth from us, but yet they want to keep all their money. You see, what I see with the Democratic Party today is nothing more than a big club of celebrities, big corporations, big unions, big academia individuals who are elitist. And they're elitist because they think in their mind that we are ignorant. We don't know what's going on. Now, the Democratic Party will appear to the uninformed voter, because what the Democratic Party basically will do is make promises. They like to get under your skin so you will react with emotion. So when it comes to progressives out there, they love to get you emotionally fired up. Why? Because you will go out and vote for them, even though they promise you something that you won't get. It's like being in the desert. Democrat will fly over, have a banner, water's coming soon. Well, while you're walking 5 to 10 miles in a hot desert, and you keep seeing that plane flying overhead, we're going to give you water. What happens? That water never comes. But when it comes to election time, you're voting for these individuals. And these individuals, they want to take your rights away. See, these Democrats today are nothing more than Marxists themselves. They're communists themselves. They want to alleviate free speech. Now, I know there are bad police officers out there, but you need police. In fact, I guarantee you, if one of the Democrats were in trouble, who would they call? Ghostbusters? No, they're going to call the police. The Democrats have the freedom to say what they want to say. They're living in this country, and they have a right to their speech, but they don't want opposing views. And that's why they're going to use the social media platforms who are run by these corporate giants. Because as we get closer to the election, they only want their speech. That's why we who are on the red team, as per the conservative guy, we need to get information out through email, through newsletters. We need to go on Blog Talk Radio, other platforms like Vimeo, because the more platforms conservatives have, it's going to be more advantageous to them. Get your information out to people like Sean Hannity. What, are they going to flag Sean Hannity? They're going to flag Rush Limbaugh? Glenn Beck? No, they're not. But a good source to watch, if you're on the conservative side, you got to go out there to Newsmax. I mean, you got John Bachman, Chris Salcedo, and Diamond and Silk were on that channel. But overall, getting back on track, voting Democrat. What have they really done for you? And what will they do for you? Because what it looks like right now, I see most of you are really going to vote because you hate the president. But again, if you hate the president that bad, that stimulus money that you got, and if you're a small business and you got that PPP money and you vote Democrat, why don't you give it all back? You're not going to give it all back because you know deep down inside what's going on in this country. you really know it's the people who are on the left. They're at fault. They used black men as collateral damage to start their uproar. And a number of these individuals who were part of these BLM, BAM, and these other insurgents out here, Antifa, heck, the people who are running Antifa, they're sitting up there living fat off the hog while you guys are out there unemployed. And if you guys are unemployed and you're out there with Antifa, BAM, and Black Lives Matter, you shouldn't be getting any unemployment money because you're unemployed. Well, if you're getting paid while you're unemployed, I believe that's illegal. You have to give the unemployment money back. But you have these Democrats out there who hate this country. But they're benefiting off this country. And at the end of the day, here's what I'm going to say. You got to ask yourself, what have the Democrats done for you? What are they going to do? Why should we make a change of president? Now, I'm not endorsing any candidate. I'm just asking this question. Because many of you are on the wrong side of history right now. Many people who are in America marching for socialism and communism don't even know what it is. It's a dictatorship. You go to these other countries like Cuba, who've experienced it. People have been killed. They've been killed for trying to speak out in these other countries. Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, Idi Amin, Mussolini. There are a few other dictators. And the U.S. being part of NATO, remember one of the dictators came out and said Trump's a dangerous man because he believes in capitalism. And see, that's another problem with these Democrats. They're in bed with the globalists. Now, I'm not going to say the Republicans aren't there either, because the Republicans, although they claim to not believe in big government, under George Bush, government spent a lot of money and government got bigger as well. It seems to me in the past 50 years that both parties have been moving left, but the Democrats, they're just louder. Now you have some Republicans who still believe in conservatism, but really what I see with the Republican Party, I see the Democratic light. And the Republicans have been very silent on these issues as well. Now, you have some that will get up on Fox News and on Newsmax and give their point of view, but they really aren't talking anything that's worthwhile. See, the real big problem, too, is when you look at the Democrats and the Republicans, you have too many career bureaucrats who've been bought and paid by corporations, unions, special interests. And the reason why they're having a problem with Trump, because Trump is using his own money. That's why Trump is the enemy. Trump is basically the enemy of both parties, because you have another Republican component called the Lincoln Project, who's for Biden. Well, the reason why a number of individuals want Biden in there, because Biden is a puppet. If he gets in office, Kamala Harris is going to be running this country. I don't trust her, because she hasn't done anything when it comes to budgets. She was a prosecutor. Didn't do a good job of that. And Biden picked her based on her color. not based on her accomplishments. And that's another problem with the Democratic Party. They're the ones who are dividing this country because they see everything through sexism, racism. Many of them are secularists. Many of them, they try to tell you that they want to tax the wealthiest 1%. Well, why would you want to do that? You're cutting your own throat, because the wealthiest 1%, they're funding your campaigns, because the wealthiest 1%, they're on your side. And the reason why the Democrats won't condemn BLM, BAM, and other insurgents like Antifa is because they're paying Antifa to be out there. Antifa is basically disrupting everything that's going on. And no matter who's in office, it's going to continue, because the Democrats right now see a big opportunity to put their progressive agenda ahead. In other words, they don't want us to have choice. They don't want us to have freedom. They want to tell us how we should think. They want more and more power. And anyone who stands in their way, they're going to try to take them out. And that's even if their own people stand in their way. Look at Vernon Jones. He spoke at the Republican National Convention. He's a state senator. I believe he's from either Georgia or South Carolina. He likes Trump's policies, and his own party ostracize him. Again, if you go to the media is playing its part and trying to get Joe Biden elected. The media is in denial that all this mayhem is taking place. Now, they've started to wake up lately, but it's too late, because they're slipping in the polls. But in the long run, when it comes to the Democratic Party, like I would even ask my own family, what have they done for you? Because my own mom told me, well, I fought for you to vote. And that's a good thing, but fighting for me to vote does not mean I have to vote the way you vote. Now, I'm a civil engineer, and I can teach somebody how to design a house or a building, but they don't have to design it the way I design it. I'm just teaching them how to design it. So when you march for me to vote, that's one thing, but allow me to use my own mind. And see, in the black community, if you vote against the plantation thinking, that's when they're going to do a lot of name calling. And what I see from the Democratic Party is a lot of immature, emotional, fictional children. That's all they are. When they don't get their way, they stomp their feet. They want everything for free. They don't want to work for anything. They want to live off the fat of the land. So at the end of the day, I'm going to ask you this question. What has the Democratic Party done for you? And what will they continue to do for you? My answer to that is the Democratic Party is not going to do anything but make promises. And they're not going to keep those promises. The Democrats are in business to stay in power, because their agenda is to turn this country into a Marxist country. Even though some of them have never been out of this country, some of them have never lived under tyranny or communism or Marxism. But again, for all you Democrats who took that stimulus check and that PPP check during a coronavirus, if you hate the president so bad, give it back. Put that back in the Treasury. The Trump administration could use your stimulus check for something else. Because if you don't appreciate what's going on in this country, you shouldn't even be in this country. And again, you have the platforms up here who are for the Democrats, like Google, who owns YouTube, that want to silence conservative thought. But at the end of the day, this country is a democratic republic. We're a country of laws. We have freedom and we have responsibility. And when our freedom is at stake, then you have to look at who's for freedom and who's not for freedom. Because people like me have to rely on politicians for policies. We don't have that money. So, because we don't have the finances and the resources, we need to vote for the person that's going to maintain freedom, law, and order. So at the end of the day, the question that I'm going to ask you is, what has the Democratic Party done for you? And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. You can also subscribe to the Mind of STEM channel if you're looking for science, technology, engineering, and math. And you can check me out on Blog Talk Radio, 215-383-5785. Now, if you can't find me on Blog Talk Radio or YouTube, simply check me out on Facebook. Now, Blog Talk Radio has been up and down, so I may go ahead and try working with Spreaker, because that seems to give people like myself who like doing podcasting a little better sound quality as well. But in the meantime, you need to think about this, folks. Who would you like to see in power? Would you like to see Trump, or would you like to see Joe Biden? Because again, this question for the final time: what has the Democratic Party done for you? And I'm going to leave you with this. Be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Once again, I thank you for listening to this commentary of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want to say, God bless you. You have a wonderful and gracious day. I'm out.